All right, let's dive into a really big idea we're tracking: the renaissance of the American factory. Now, hold on. This isn't about bringing back old, rusty smokestacks. Not at all. We're talking about a fundamental tech-driven shift in how we build, well, pretty much everything. But before we get to where we're going, we've got to look back. And that brings up a really critical question. Why did America stop building? I mean, this is a country that was literally built on industrial strength, right? So what happened? How did we lose so much of that muscle? And here's where things get really interesting. What if the solution isn't just, building more factories? What if it's about completely reinventing what a factory even means in the first place? Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, we need to unpack how we even got here. You see, the decline of America's industrial power wasn't some big, sudden event. It was more like a slow, steady erosion that happened over decades. It really kicked off back in the 1980s with what's called the financialization of everything. Basically, it became more profitable to make money from money, through finance, than from actually making things. Then you roll into the 90s and 2000s, and that thinking leads to this massive wave of offshoring manufacturing. And while all of that was happening, something else was quietly building up. This thick crust of regulation that just made it super difficult and slow to build anything new. And this idea of a regulatory crust is absolutely key to understanding the problem. Look, we're not saying these are all bad rules. Not at all. A lot of them were created for really good reasons, like safety or protecting the environment. But imagine just adding one new rule, then another, year after year for decades. Eventually, you end up with this super thick, complex layer that just suffocates innovation. It makes new projects incredibly slow and wildly expensive. So, okay. That's the problem. What's the fix? Well, it's definitely not about trying to turn back the clock. That ship has sailed. The solution lies in adopting a totally new way of thinking, a new factory mindset. Right now, when you hear the word factory, what do you picture? Probably a big warehouse, a physical assembly line, churning out some kind of widget, right? Well, this new mindset takes that idea and abstracts it. It's about taking the core principles of that assembly line, breaking things down, standard parts, efficiency, and applying them to huge, complex society-level problems, not just physical stuff. So here's the core idea in a nutshell. You take a giant, messy problem. Think housing, think energy infrastructure, and you break it down. You decompose it into a set of modular, repeatable parts. That way, you can tackle it systematically, piece by piece, just like building a car on an assembly line. And this isn't just a theory. We're already seeing this happen in the real world. You've got founders applying this exact factory mindset to industries that you would never normally connect with an assembly line. We're talking housing construction, deploying massive data centers, mining operations, even large-scale energy projects. Okay, but wait, how is this even possible? How can you apply assembly line logic to something so huge and complex? What's the secret sauce? Well, the answer is AI. Seriously, you can think of AI as the operating system for this new world-scale assembly line. So AI is the game changer here for a few reasons. First, it can actually map and understand insane levels of complexity. Remember that regulatory crust we talked about? AI can navigate that. Second, it's brilliant at taking those huge problems and breaking them down into those manageable modular parts. And finally, it lets us apply that assembly line logic at a massive scale, so we're not starting from scratch every single time. It's about creating a repeatable process. To put it really simply, AI is what allows us to take the concept of the factory and bring it out into the real world, way beyond the four walls of a traditional building. Now, I know this might still sound a bit abstract, a little theoretical, but there is a perfect real-world example happening right now that is the blueprint for all of this, the way we're building massive data centers. Just think about it. We are building data centers at a speed and scale that is just staggering. It's happening at a rate that's pretty much unheard of in any other construction sector. And that makes it the perfect testing ground, the perfect proof of concept for this new factory model. So how are they pulling this off? It's simple, really. They're treating construction as if it were manufacturing. They're using standard intellectual property, standard designs, and modular, repeatable parts. And because of that, they can put up these enormous, complex structures in record time. That right there is the factory mindset in action. And here's the really cool part. The lessons we learn don't stay locked up in data center construction. As we perfect the technologies for building fast, we're talking AI, robotics, autonomy, those innovations can spin out. They can be applied everywhere else. We're talking about accelerating the construction of new freeways and airports, mines and refineries, new semiconductor fabs, even defense facilities and plants for consumer goods. The potential is huge. All right, so this brings us to the big picture, right? We've identified the problem, that lost industrial muscle. We've got the new solution, this factory mindset, and we even have a real-world blueprint with data centers. So the next logical step is, how do we use this to rebuild America's future? The challenge ahead is pretty clear, isn't it? How do we take all these learnings from building data centers and apply them everywhere else? How do we scale this model to build all the new factories, the new semiconductor fabs, and all the other facilities we need across every single part of the U.S. economy? And this quote really gets to the heart of it. The ultimate goal isn't just about building things again. It's about turning our ability to build things at scale into a massive strategic advantage for the country. And we're going to end on this final thought, which is really a call to arms for anyone who builds. The renaissance of the American factory, it's not just some abstract idea. It's a project that's happening right now, and it's waiting for more builders. The challenge is to completely reinvent what it means to build in the United States. And the real question is, who's going to step up and do it?